Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of HSP TV. I am your host, Barbara, and today I am joined by the wonderful Adriana. And our topic for today is going to be saying no is okay, and forgiveness allows for freedom. And I've been looking forward to this because Adriana and me, we've discovered that we have a really great connection, which is really awesome. We also talked about how awesome it is that you can connect with people all over the world. But also, the topic of today is, I think, a very important topic because many people that come to me for guidance, they have trouble saying no. And even when they learn to say no, they still think that they owe people an explanation, while no is an entire sentence. It's enough to say no. You don't have to explain your no's. And when you start doing that, when one of the things that really helped me in being able to say no is the realization that when I say no to somebody else, I'm actually saying yes to myself. That was
Right.
something that really, really moved the needle into being able to say no more.
Yeah. Um, well said. Well said, Barbara. Yeah, I feel like, for myself, and my own journey, I wasn't always saying no. It was like people pleasing and guilt and okay, I'll do it. And I don't want to let them down. I don't want to, and my aha moment when my father had passed away, I had really lost myself. I was really doing all kinds of stuff for him and others, working and blah 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 blah. And when he had passed, it was such a dark moment, but at the same time, it was such a discovery of what the hell am I doing? Like what the
Mhm.
hell? Where I lost myself. I almost feel like I was like I lost my loyalty to my own self, my own being, my own wellness. Um, and through that journey of discovery, it was like, yeah, it was now no, it was boundaries. It was no explanation. It was just, no, I'm not going to do it, or no, I can't. But there was a lot of, well, why not? And you should. And that's not nice. And, you're expected. And I was like, well, but wait a minute. That's your expectation. And that's how you feel. And that's how you live your life. I don't choose to live my life like that. I don't owe you an explanation. If I don't feel it, I'm not going to participate.
Mhm.
Um, and again, like you and I had talked about energies, and I was in situations where the energies were really suffocating. I felt
Mhm.
like the oxygen was getting sucked out of me, and I could never understand it before, Barbara. And I had a moment, and I didn't understand that either, where I froze. I was in a room full of people, and I froze, and found out later through guidance and counseling that it was called a dissociation, they call it, where you literally freeze and you're paralyzed. And people are talking, but you're just anyway, and that was just a real eye opener for me to really say, you know what, I do not want to put myself in that position.
Mhm.
And just from my past, I really try to be aware of people now and their autonomy and what's going on with them, and which I wasn't before, but it was like more listening into what am I hearing in between, and where's the eye of compassion for this person, and that's where that forgiveness comes in. It's like, okay, Adriana, you know, don't get offended. There's nothing for you to get offended about. It's whatever's happening with that person. So forgive them and just allow them to be,
Mhm.
and lose the control and lose the trying to, well, you should and you should have, and the expectation, and well, I feel like this or you make me feel like that. And it's like, no, that is all you. That's you, that's yours. I'm here, but at the end of the day, now where I am from that horrific day, it's like day and night. It is that awareness of, you know what? I don't want to get caught in that anger. I don't want to get caught into that sloth or boredom or, sitting there with restlessness and doubt. It's like, I'm here, I'll listen, I'll give you that space, but I can't fix it for you. But I forgive you. No matter what you think, I'll forgive you for myself first, and then hopefully move to a positive journey moving forward. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. And I know how difficult this is because I call myself a recovering people pleaser. Right? Yes.
Yes,
And for
yes,
me, that came about because of a variety of things that you're also mentioning. And so a big part was societal expectation, familial expectations, and the way
right.
you raised the examples that you're seeing. So my mother is also a people pleaser, and my dad was an abusive asshole. There's no other word for it. And
Mm,
he abused me, he abused my mom, and that also makes you afraid to say no or to stand up for yourself.
yeah,
So you did everything to keep the peace. And if you then combine that with an upbringing of not talking about things and going with the flow and trying to appease, constantly trying to appease, then you
yeah,
also become a people pleaser. So that
that's
is what
right.
happened to me. And I had worked on myself. I discovered who I am. I worked on healing large parts of myself. And I thought that I was very successful up until last year. Last year,
Mm,
I discovered that there was still a part of me that needed to be healed that I was not aware of. And what happens to you happens, or what you talked about happened to me. So, in general,
yeah,
when things happen beyond our control, we have three different responses. You have fight, beating someone, you have flight, running away, but there's also
right.
freeze. And not a lot of people talk about freeze. And freeze was the one that I also learned because my dad was a really big man, really big hands, really aggressive. So it was like
Mm,
a deer caught in the headlights. Look,
yeah,
freeze, right? And
yeah,
I
yeah.
really thought I had worked on everything and that I had freed myself. And for the most part, that was also true. So there was no reason to not assume that I was capable of defending myself. Last
Mm,
year, I had a date with a guy that I met from a dating site. And the very first time that we met each other, he wanted to go for a walk in the park. And we had really great conversations beforehand. And I was looking forward to meeting him. And I really thought, oh, this could really, be something, be
mm,
someone, go somewhere. And I
mm,
wasn't prepared at all for what really happened. So we were walking in the park and we were talking, and then all of a sudden there were no other people in the park, and he started grabbing my boobs, and if he
oh
wasn't
my
grabbing
God.
my boobs, he was grabbing me in my crotch.
Oh my God.
And I froze. I was so shocked by the unexpectedness of it, by the brutality of it, that I
Yeah,
didn't even defend myself. And I was furious. I couldn't say no, but in my mind I was like, "You asshole! And what the peep do you think you're doing? And shall I grab
yeah.
you in your nuts and squeeze, or maybe knee you?" And so in my head, all of this
Oh my God.
things were happening, this rebellion, this resistance to what was happening. And in the real world, I was like,
Yeah.
frozen. And even when we sat on the couch, on a bench in the park, I was sitting with my arms crossed like this. I was sitting with my legs crossed like this. And still he tried to grab my boobs, or still he tried to grab me in my crotch. And I showed all of the signs of not wanting to, but still I could not say something. Nothing came out.
Mm,
I was still frozen. And I didn't understand why I couldn't voice what my head was already screaming
right,
inside
right,
of my
right.
mind. And it took a couple more of these grabs before I was finally able to say, I am not feeling comfortable with the liberties that you are permitting yourself with my body. And it was a very long sentence to say, fuck off, idiot. Right? But I was so proud of myself that I at least got that one out.
Absolutely.
And that's when I realized there were still inhibitions from my upbringing. And still
Mm,
with a male energy, a male dominated energy, I
mm.
couldn't just say what my mind was screaming. And this was a very politically correct response that I was not
Wow, I'll say.
proud of.
Oh
But
yeah.
it
Oh
taught
yeah.
me that there was still a part of myself that needed to be healed. This part of this male unwanted domination that
Right.
still made me freeze in my tracks. And it wasn't until a bit later, because I really needed a toilet and I didn't want him to know where I was living based on his
Oh
behavior.
yeah. Oh yeah.
He said, "Well, you can walk me back to the park, right?" And I thought he picked me up at 5, and it was 9 in the evening by then. He had given me one glass of wine. He attacked me every moment he got, no food at all. When I really
Oh my
reached my limit,
God.
I looked at him and I said to him, "Do you see that bridge over there?" And he said, "Yes, I see it." I said, "Good. You walk towards it. You will see the park. I trust that you can find your own car because this bitch is feeding herself." I walked away and I felt so proud. But this is
Good. Good.
a really
Yeah.
good example of conditioning, of
Yeah.
trauma, of
Yeah.
all these things conspiring. No matter
Hmm.
how much self work I already, because I was on my journey of self discovery and freeing myself for years when this happened last year. And still,
Oh wow.
I went into this part, right? So, my message, I think, to everybody that's listening and that's watching is that even if you've done a lot of work on yourself, then this can still happen. And then it still requires you
Yes.
to be kind and gentle to yourself and not think, "Oh,
Yeah.
God, and you, how could you have allowed this to happen?" Or all of these things that usually we are
Yeah.
really
The
good
doubts, the
at. Doubt
thoughts. Blah, 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 blah.
or berating ourselves, being very
Yeah.
strict with ourselves, right? Like,
Yeah.
really, that you can
Yeah.
be in self-compassion, that you think, "Oh God, of course this happens because of this that happened." And oh, how fortunate it is that I was shown this so that I could heal it. So
Oh,
instead of
that's awesome.
thinking, "Why is this happening to me?" That was something that I used to think a lot. Why does this happening? Is this happening to me? And why did I have to meet this guy? Why did I have to go through this? I thought, well, it was very unpleasant. But in the
Mm,
end, I stood up for myself. So it taught me to stand
yeah.
up for myself. It taught me to overcome the freeze. It taught me to, value myself and speak up for myself. And it also showed me the last bits and pieces within myself that I not only had to heal, but also forgiveness for yourself. It's not just forgiveness for the other person. And
Right.
forgiveness, we talked about forgiveness, is also something I struggled with for a long time because somewhere along the lines, I learned that when I forgive someone, I was basically saying it's okay what you did. And lots of these
Oh,
things were not okay.
yeah.
The abuse of
Right.
my father, not okay. Grabbing my boot,
Right.
grabbing my crotch, not okay. Just not okay. So
No.
I couldn't forgive because I thought it's not okay. And it
Yeah.
was indeed learning that forgiveness is what you said. It's not saying to someone, "It's okay what you did." No, I forgive not because I want to let you off the hook. I forgive because I no longer want to be burdened by it. I no longer be want to weighed down by it. I
Yeah.
no longer want
Right.
to drag it around. I don't want it in my pain body so that every time someone else does something, the hurt comes back all over again.
Exactly. Yeah. The forgiveness is, it's for you. It's for you. It's, they say like, you don't forget, and the boundaries are the don't forget. But the forgiveness is exactly that. You don't want to carry that around. Whereas, like, a lot of people they don't really understand that part of it. And they'll get, like, with my own family, I'm estranged from some of my siblings and some of my family
Mm.
because of incidents. And, in the beginning, it's like, well, because I said no and because I stood up for myself, but
Yeah.
they will never understand it like that. They will see it as maybe a a threat or an attack or well, who do
Yes.
you think you are? I don't think I'm anybody, but those actions always are out of fear too, right? From themselves of whatever they're fearful of, or they haven't come to terms, or and there is no forgiveness on their end. It's and that's okay because they're still in that hurt or whatever. So
Yes.
it's like when you're ready, you're ready. But for yourself, like and what you've experienced, yeah, that forgiveness is you standing up and having that moment of, yeah, this isn't okay. And when you do it more and more, you're going to have resistance from people, but at the same time, you yourself personally, you're going to have such a that freedom of I'm okay. I'm okay with this. Like I'm okay with it. So moving forward now, when I'm with people or when I'm dealing with that confrontation, you know, before I used to like be very, oh, what do you mean? Blah, blah. I don't. I just leave it now and I try to sit with it and process it and think, okay, it's got nothing to do with me. It actually has nothing to do with it. When people get mad and they're lashing out, it never has anything to do with you or me. It's what they're going through internally and what they're dealing with. And it took me a long time to learn that. And sometimes I fall off the wagon, Barbara. Sometimes I have moments where I'm like, I gotta go and be a hermit because I gotta process stuff.
Yeah.
But I do sit with it more and I do let it come instead of, no, I don't want to deal with it or I'll deal with it later. Forget about it. I'm going to deal with it now. And that way I'm going to learn and go through it. But it's hard. Like it's a tough journey and it's going to be a forever journey.
Yes.
And now it's like the practice of equanimity. It's not mine. It's I've got nothing to do with it. It's impermanence. It's going to change. It's moment to moment in life. And at the end of the day, that's how I try to live now. I'm not perfect. I still, like I said, fall off the wagon, but I let it go. I won't pick it up. When people are like, Adriana, this happened. I'm really sorry. Like, I'm really sorry to hear that. And I'm compassionate to that. But it is something you need to figure out on your journey.
Hmm.
I will be here. I'll support and do what I need to do to help you. But it's also, for me, it's that liberation and of it isn't mine, it's yours. And,
Yes.
I hope you figure it out, but I can't figure it out for you. I don't want that control anyway. And there's a lot more peace and there's a lot less, um, I had to really cut the list down with certain individuals because the energy is just absolutely draining. And for well-being is about taking care of yourself first, like your Thursdays spa days. That's good. That's
Yes.
healthy. That's a boundary that you put for yourself. And that's just good for you and gives you what you need, your oxygen. And for me, I'll read a book or I'll go into a quiet space and stay there for a bit. But think in down the road, I think when people start to have that clarity of, it's okay to be myself. It's okay not to engage. It's okay to say no. Functions, weddings, parties, birthdays, whatever. I've done
Hmm.
it now. And my poor husband, I laugh because he's like, what do you mean you're not gonna go? What do you mean you're not gonna do that? And I'm not gonna do it. I'm
No.
sorry. Like it's just not for me. I don't feel it and I don't want to engage. And it doesn't matter. Those are those people's expectations. But for me, I'm going to do what's good for me. And it's not selfish. And that's the other thing. A lot of people think, well, that's very selfish. No, it's not. It's about putting yourself in a place where it's good for you.
It's
And
not
and I
selfish. It's
it's
self-care.
healthy. Yeah, it's
Self-care.
self-care. And I now preach it and I teach it and I give it. I deal with a lot of different communities and when I hear stories and people like you shared, I'm like, well, what did you do for yourself? What did you do for you? And what's the grace for you now?
Hmm.
And it gets emotional, but at the same time, it's like you got to take care of yourself first. We have one life. We don't live it for other people. We live our life for our life, right?
Mm. Yes,
So
that's the way it's
kudos to
supposed to be.
you.
But I think religion plays a very big part in this as well because I'm not religious. I don't believe in fixed and set religion. I'm spiritual. I do believe in a higher power, but that's different.
Yes.
But what I
Yeah.
remember from the Bible, because I had to go to a Christian school when I was younger, is that it's always do for your neighbor and be there for others. So in the Bible says that you have to love others, but nowhere does it say love yourself. So you always need to turn the other cheek and always be there for other people.
Mm.
And this also colors a lot of people's expectations. So it's not only societal
Yeah.
expectations or familial expectations, it's also religion expectations. And all of it
Right.
combined can put you in a very difficult spot when it comes to standing up for yourself and choosing yourself because lots of people will make you believe that you're being selfish if you choose yourself
Hmm.
because that is the pressure point that they can push
Yeah.
to have you do their bidding. It's about
Exactly.
and you touch upon many different things that are very important. So, one of the things that I want to highlight here is that when you go on this journey of self discovery, there is a very real possibility that you might lose everybody. And you lost
Yes.
most friends and family. I've lost most friends and family because
Hmm.
I refused to be a doormat anymore and because I started
Right.
valuing myself above somebody else. And my mother used to say, well, you're the oldest and the wisest, so you need to give the good example and always turn the other cheek, turn the other cheek, turn the other cheek. But on the other side, there's only a donkey hits its head against the same stone over and over again, expecting a different
Yeah.
result, right? So that's opposites of each other. And in the end,
Right.
it is about yourself. You need to be able to look yourself in the eye and tell yourself, I love you. And I couldn't do that.
Right.
When I had the mirror exercise, and that is really literally looking yourself in the eye, in the
Hmm.
mirror every morning and saying,
Right.
I love you. I couldn't
Right.
in the beginning. I couldn't tell myself I loved myself because honestly, I didn't love myself and I didn't love my
Yeah.
life. And there were many, many times where I didn't want to live my life anymore. It's not that I was suicidal per se or that I wanted to die. I hated my life. I was
Yeah.
so incredibly miserable and I felt so deeply alone in my misery that I just didn't want to go on like that anymore. And this is also
Hmm.
something that's not talked about enough. So if you're listening this and you're hearing this and you can relate, it would be really awesome if you could let me know because this is not a
Yeah.
very easy feeling or a very easy period in your life to
No.
go through.
It's tough.
It is really tough.
It's tough.
If you then lose your friends and your family won't speak to you anymore because you don't want to do their bidding or you don't want to
Hmm.
interact with them, it can be a very lonely, very tough place. But in the end, I
Yeah.
found that there's much more inner peace and a lot more outer
Right.
peace in my life now that most of these people have gone away. And it is not that I am angry with them or upset with
No.
them. It is exactly what you said. I recognize you are on your journey of self discovery. You're on your path, and you might not be healing because you might be occupied looking at everybody else's life, like lots of people do, and you don't look at yourself, and you haven't
Hmm.
started healing what needs to be healed. And hurt people hurt people. So when
Yeah.
you are still a hurt person yourself, then it's very easy to hurt someone else. Eckhart Tolle talks
Yeah.
about this. He calls it the pain
Oh,
body.
I love him. Yeah.
And the
Yeah. I love
pain body
him.
is the collection of all your hurts and your traumas and everything
That's
bad
right.
happened to you. And then every time something happens in your life, it automatically gets compared to the pain body to see if there's something similar in there. And when there is something
Hmm.
similar, your autopilot programs start running and you have the autopilot emotions, behaviors.
That's right.
And so you always respond similar to similar things because of this pattern. And it takes a lot to become aware of this, and it takes even
Yeah,
more to break through all of this. So in the end, like you, I've discovered there's no point in me being angry with these people. There's no point
no,
in me blaming these people. They are also a victim of their paradigms, of their upbringing,
exactly.
of their societal expectations, everything. And they have just either not chosen to work on it yet, or are not far in working on it yet. And they come from their hurt patterns, their
Yeah,
wounded self. And
that's
that has
right.
everything to do with their wounding and their cells, and
Right.
almost nothing to nothing with me.
Yeah.
I'm just the catalyst, I'm just the trigger.
Yeah, and that it's so that it's spot on. It's, we all been through stuff like as human, we all have family trauma, we all have ancestral trauma, we all have a history where you're dictated by family, you're dictated by thoughts, you're dictated by society, now social media. And you know, you have the choice to want to change it. Have you ever heard of
Yes.
Gabor Mate?
Yeah.
Yeah, and you go into this and you go into that thinking, and then you carry it like a badge. Like, yeah, I'm this, I'm that, but you're not. Like, you're not. You can be who you want to be, and you can change that pattern. And it's all about the patterns. But if you don't want to change the pattern, you want to keep going back to the same cycle, that is on you. I chose to get off that cycle. I chose to remove myself from the pattern with my family and my family's history and what my parents went through and how they were raised. And it was terrible. Some of the stuff I now know, and
Yeah.
I very compassionate with it. But at the end of the day, now it's yes, I will give you that eye of compassion, and I will listen with the tolerance, and I will, you know, speak with you the best that I know how. But
Mhm.
please understand, it is your journey, it is your path, and you're the only one who can change it. It doesn't matter if you want to walk around being a victim, that's on you. But the world, Barbara, it's tough. It's
Yes.
tough. And when I
Mhm.
do coaching and even meditation, I am realist. And it's sometimes I'll tell my clients, like it's a tough teach today because I'm going to tell it to you, not because I want to be an asshole, but because no one's told you this already. No one has explained this to you. Everybody's just sugarcoating, and a lot of the clients are like, I don't know what to do. And I was doing this, and I'm like, well, what are you doing for you? What are you doing for you? Like, and so at the end of the day, all you can do is yes, listen. I'm going to turn the other cheek to a point. That doesn't mean you can cross a boundary. That doesn't mean you can disrespect. That doesn't, if you want to judge or think, that's fine. That's on you, but it's on you. It's
Yes.
your life, it's your pattern. And I
Mhm.
had to learn that too, because like you, I was very hard on myself. Um, and now, I do the best I can, and I do the best with people, and I give them that autonomy. But I will never put a boundary down where they can cross it. I'll keep that boundary to a point,
Mhm.
and give them what I can, but I'm not gonna um sit there and be like, telling them something that's A, not true, or B, what they want to hear. No,
Mhm.
let's be honest, right? Because that's it at the end of the day. Gandhi says, and if everybody goes an eye and an eye, then the world is blind, right? So,
Yes.
guys, we have to just like take a step back, take a pause, and when you're having a moment, like, just take that step back and sit with it and be with it and understand, where is it coming from? It's deep rooted. It's not even about me. You're right. I'm the catalyst, or I'm the whipping board, but I can only allow that to a point, and then it's like you have to figure it out, right?
Yes, and that's healthy boundary setting, right? Where you
Yeah.
that's I spoke about this this week a couple of times actually with multiple clients. It's
Mm,
about what you allow to penetrate your energy and for how long. So if someone is
right.
having a bad day, that can always happen, and they can lash out from anger or from a past trauma in that moment. And you're not
Mm,
immediately no longer my friend when that happens. No. But I do expect you to be open to positive feedback around it, or at least to have a healthy self inspection and look at
right.
behavior and think, okay, this was not my finest moment. And then also being able to talk about it, not from, oh,
Yeah.
you did this and you are bad. And no, no, more from
Mhm.
the conversations I can have with myself where I think, oh God, we could have handled this better. Yes, we could have. Were we able to
And
in this
that's
moment?
good.
No, I was not able to in this moment. Okay, so what did we
Yeah.
learn from this moment? Well, I learned this and this and this. Okay, so how are we using this knowledge in the future when something similar happens? Well, maybe we
Right.
could try this. Oh, I like that idea. That is a good idea. Yes, let's try that in the future.
Yeah.
Something like this, right? These are conversations I can have with myself. And when someone keeps crossing your boundary and crossing and crossing and crossing, I only
Mhm.
allow it to a certain point. When it starts interfering with my energy and it starts bringing me down so that I cannot keep my vibration high where I want it to be,
Right.
and that goes
Right.
on for too long, then there's no place for you in my life until you fix that.
Yes. Yeah, you're changing your neurobiology. You're changing, your cortex. You're changing your whole energy and the whole dynamic of it. Whereas, you know, it, Thich Nhat Hanh talks about suffering, and you can choose to stay in the suffering, or you can choose to stay out of the suffering. You can go to the path of getting well and not being in that suffering. Because at the end of the day, we create our own suffering. We
Yes.
actually create our own suffering because we'll
Yes.
sit there and we'll wallow and and
But
it's
I
like,
wasn't
yeah, man,
aware of this for most of my life. Most of us
yeah,
were not aware of this
who
most of our lives, I
no.
think.
So when you understand that, it's like, oh, you know what? Why am I allowing this? And I used to feel like that, like I better not do this, but now no, I don't want to stay in that suffering. I want to be the path to out of that suffering. Yes, I have bad days. Yes, I go off the wagon. Yes, but we learn from that. And then
Yes.
it's like, okay, you know what? I remember this when it happened last time, but this is how I'm going to choose to deal with it moving forward. And it's
Yeah.
changing the neurobiology of our brain patterns. And once we start, it's super hard at first, but once we start, I look at people now and I listen and I think, okay, Adriana, what are they going through? What
Mm.
are they're reacting? So what is it that they're dealing with that it's coming at me? Instead it was, and before I was like, right? But now it's because healthy wise, it's better for my nervous system. It's better for my cortex. It's better for my overall well-being. And that's how I look at it. But it's a constant reminder. Step back, step back, step back, and trying to step back. So
And it also
yeah.
largely depends on what type of day we're having ourselves, right? If
Oh
I haven't
yeah.
slept well, or I lost the human that I loved most in this world right before Christmas. So the
Yeah,
last couple of weeks have been very difficult, and I have not
yeah,
been my best self because of the grief and the hurt. And then that makes
absolutely.
my what I can handle also shorter. My fuse is shorter, but I know that
Yeah.
about myself. So then I don't expose myself to people as much so that I cannot be triggered in that part. So it's about getting to know yourself really well and knowing what the signs are when you can handle it or when you cannot handle it, when you can go out into the world or when you need to be a hermit more, and keeping
Yes.
yourself in balance. And the other thing, and when it comes to forgiveness, I've also discovered that I am able to forgive people for not being able to step out of their paradigms, or I can forgive you for also being a victim of your upbringing, or I can forgive you for being a hurt child that hasn't learned how to be an adult yet. Because that's usually
Exactly.
what's behind people's behavior. And if you can look
That's
at it
right.
in that way, so not the action itself, because it can be very childish sometimes, or people can be
Yeah.
very, very mean. But it's
Yeah.
almost mean like a bullying child mean.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry that you still have this inner child that feels the need to vent this way. I'm sorry for
Mhm.
you.
Yeah. Very well said and very well put. Because that's it. At the end of the day, it's whatever you haven't dealt with from your trauma, it's gonna always follow you. Like your character and your reaction defines your fate.
Yes,
And your fate is what you carry behind you, right?
yes,
How you choose to move forward. Your intent, if it doesn't match the outcome, then you got to heal that, right? So that it makes sense that there is a balance. And you're right, a lot of people don't know it. And a lot of people, Barbara, they don't want to do the work
no,
because it's scary. It's hard.
hard.
Like you, like me, I had to look at things when my dad passed away. I had to really do an in-depth discovery, and I had a few dark moments. I had a really hard time at some points, and it was like, okay, let's do the talk. What's going on? Why am I feeling this? Where are these feelings coming from? And it is work, and it's a continuous journey, right?
Yes.
But if you
Yeah, and
can do it,
it also doesn't mean that you and I never step into things like this. It becomes less and less, and you recognize it quicker and
yeah,
quicker, and you know how to
right.
deal with it better and better. That's the journey.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that when I am grieving and I haven't slept well, and I'm also on my period, that I sometimes can react in a way that I think, oh, you could have been more tactful, or you could have put that better. But in that moment, I wasn't able to. And then I can also be very kind to myself and have the conversation that I just shared with myself, where I realized, oh, this was not my finest moment. No, it was not.
Yeah,
And then, well, what really happened here? Well, this, and this, and then in combination with that, and I think, yeah, okay, I understand now where this comes from. And but let's try and do that differently. And then I do some EFT,
amazing.
emotional freedom techniques, for instance, on the emotion or the trauma that is underneath, so that I can release
Mhm.
that. And these are really great ways of fine-tuning yourself further and further, and healing the last bits and pieces that are still there.
That's amazing. And you're recognizing it, which
Yes,
is you're already half the journey, like half that battle, because you've recognized it now and you're changing it. And now when you go to that mirror, yeah, you should love yourself. You're a great
exactly.
woman, you're a great person, you're great energy. Like we should all love ourselves. It's just that
Yes,
that listen, there's no book in parenting, so we're all raised differently by parents who knows how their parents and way back. So we just do the best to better ourselves, to better our lives, and not. I work hard. Like I don't want to follow suit the same way my dad and my mom. They were great parents. I got nothing bad to say about them. They're exceptional for me. But there are some bad habits that they have that, well, my dad had, but it's like, I don't want to carry that
yes,
because it didn't do good for him. So I don't want to carry that. And I don't want to carry some of the habits my mom had because she didn't know better or she hasn't learned. So, you just always try to better yourself and change, but do it for you. And don't bring people into that and don't victimize and blame others. Your life is your life. You're blessed to have this life, so make this life the best life you can,
yes.
and try to stay at that neutrality of equanimity. You know, there's days I go out and people are like, even you're driving, you're in a Walmart, and you just look and then it's like, okay, I'm just gonna wish them better and hope they're okay, right? Because Who knows what they're dealing with?
Yes.
But the boundaries, like for this today's, when you say no, you're not saying no to be mean, you're saying no because it's not working for you. And at the end of the day, that no does give you that freedom, because now you have that freedom to say, what do I want to do today? And I said no for the right reasons, not to be mean, not to be vindictive or malicious. You just said it because you need that space. And
I
if
think
people
it
don't
comes down to,
understand, yeah, like if they don't understand, it's okay. I've gained a lot of great new people in my life, people like yourself, and I have a fantastic support system around me. So maybe all this happened to get me to this where I am today. I don't know.
I think
It's
so. Yes.
crazy.
I think everything is happening to get you to be the best version of yourself. And that's, I think, also what it boils down to, loving yourself, truly loving yourself.
Right,
Because if you truly love yourself, then you want to take care of yourself and you want to live your life to
exactly.
the best of your abilities and you want to do
That's
the things
right.
that are in your best interest, not from a selfish or narcissistic point of view, but because
Right,
of well, if you're in service, if you want to help people, then you need to give a good example. That's one thing, but also you cannot pour from an empty cup. So you need to be able to say no when you feel that you cannot give it your all, when it's
yeah,
not in your best interest, or when you already gave so much that you feel running on empty. Then you need to be able
right.
to say no to certain things because it becomes too much. So healthy
That's
boundary
right.
setting, taking care of yourself, all of it comes down to loving yourself enough,
That's
valuing
right.
yourself, because you are
Yeah,
a wonderful person that needs taking care of. And at the end of the day, the only person that takes good care of yourself is you. Other people won't.
that's right. That's right. And that's it in a nutshell, right? And hopefully people will learn some, hopefully people get something out of this conversation. But we've all been there.
Yes.
We've all been there. Like I said, we all carry, my history, I can share that with others and understand it better and help them where they need to be. I'm always humbled to do that. And I'm not better than anybody. I'm not, we're all the same. We're all the same. It's just our outlook is different.
Mhm.
How I see you, maybe you don't see yourself like that, but hopefully you will one day. But in the
Yes.
meantime, you got to do the work, right? You got to do that work and take that pause and be with that really scary, ugly part that it's there for a reason, right?
Mhm.
It's there for a reason. And unless you deal with it, it never goes away. And
No.
it'll follow you through all your different journeys. And
All your
yeah, you gotta,
relationships, everywhere you go, and in
yeah,
everything, you not just romantic relationships, friendships, work relationships,
everything.
jobs, everywhere.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, so it's a journey, right? It is a journey. And I'm the same. I'm not a big religious person. I did not have a great experience with the Catholic faith and priests. And I follow spiritually what I feel is right, and in the Buddhist way as well, because it's more real and aligned with what I believe in. Um, but just we got to accept each other, the
Yes.
good, the bad, the ugly. I always say, because we're not perfect. We're all flawed, but
Mhm.
you know what? Just accept it and say, okay, that person is like that. I love them regardless.
Be
That's who
more
they are, right?
compassionate.
Yeah,
Yes.
just you got to be more compassionate, and it's a hard practice because we're not geared that way. Look at the
No, we're not
society we
taught
live
that
in.
way either.
No, exactly. It's just no, it's all for you, do for you, and it's all about money, and it's all about how I can get higher. I don't want to get higher. I'm okay where I am, and I'm happy with where I am, and I don't want to step on anybody. I just
Mhm.
want the practice I try to give to others. I want it back.
Yeah.
And if I don't get it back, yeah, I put that boundary until you're ready to be in my circle and we're on the same level. that you can understand that I'm not perfect and you're not perfect, right?
And that's
And
perfectly
taking that
fine.
pause, and that's perfectly fine, exactly, because it, it's, it is what it is, right? There's a
Yes.
lot of shit out there.
Oh,
Like,
for sure. Yes. And that's what I think is a shame most of the time, where we just, it's so easy to judge and it's so easy to
yeah,
condemn. And apparently it's so hard to be compassionate and understanding. But if more
yeah,
people were compassionate and understanding, the world would look very different from now. And I think a lot more people would be a lot more happy.
so do I. Yeah, so do I. And I had to learn that because I didn't grow up like that,
Me
but
either.
learning it, I was like, wow, this feels good. This is nice.
Yes.
And again, like the not being offended, or it's not mine. It's like, okay, I'm empathetic to you being upset, and I'm compassionate to where you are, but that's the best I can do right now. And what can I do to support you?
Yes.
It's your journey, and you have to make the changes necessary in your life. If you stay like, people get divorced, or they get abused, or they're physically abused, or whatever. If you decide to carry that in your life, then that's the life you're going to live.
Mhm.
Whereas you don't have to. You can say, okay, yeah, that happened to me, but here's what I'm choosing to move forward. But it's tough. But when you do it, it's such a great, like, it's freedom. It's like, yeah, that was my family, but this isn't who I am, you know. So accept it, great. If you don't, that's okay too. That's okay. At the end of the day, I don't carry any hate or resentment or anger. I forgive. I love you. Like, for example, my family, I love them, but they're still in that movie, and my movie's different now.
Yes.
And I'm okay with that.
Yes.
It's
And you're
like your
welcome in
story
my
too.
movie anytime you want.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's
Yeah.
like, yourself, like you've gone that journey, and now
Yeah.
you do this beautiful podcast, and it's great. It helps people. People listen, and they can learn from it, and it's a great thing. Like, your journey has brought you here to now. You and I have met, and I love
Yes.
it. I think it's
Me
it's a
too.
win-win. Yeah, it's a win-win, Barbara.
Oh, Adriana, I really loved our conversation today. I think we talked
Yeah,
about
me too.
really, really important things today. So if you are out there, you're watching, you're listening to this episode, let us know that you're there. Leave us a comment, either your biggest insight or share your story, because we need to share these stories so that other people can learn from them, can benefit from them, can support each other in similar types of situations. So that would be amazing. I can also imagine that you might want to be able to contact Adriana. So where can people find you, Adriana? Where can they contact you?
Um, I have a website. I look, because I'm getting old, Barbara. I'm a senior now. www.dailydelegations.com. Email dailydelegations@outlook.com. LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, Herman under that little underscore Paletta, and LinkedIn, just link me. Yeah, those are the best
I will
places they
make
can
sure that
catch me.
all the links you just mentioned are included in the show notes, so you'll probably find them below this video or sometimes to the side. It kind of depends where you're catching this episode here today. But definitely the links that Adriana just mentioned will be included, as well as my own links. I always offer a free consultation to people who just want to get to know me, maybe want to explore working with me, or just want to ask some questions or just need some support. So if that is something that you're interested in, find the links to do that also in the show notes, in the description of this video. And if you haven't done so already, then it would be amazing if you could maybe subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you will never miss a wonderful interview like this ever again. And if you felt that this was an important message, then you were doing everybody a really great service by sharing this episode with your followers, because you never know who you know that needs to hear this message today. Thank you, Adriana, for being here, for being such a wonderful guest. It was my pleasure
Yeah.
having you.
Oh, I'm humbled, Barbara. I loved it. I loved our chats.
Me too.
Thank you so
And
much.
you're very welcome. Of course, also thank you, watcher, listener out there for your support for this show, for tuning in to our conversation today. I wish you an amazing rest of the day for you, and I look forward to inspiring you with another beautiful guest in next week's episode.
Awesome.